Scott, you're up next. Can we see your face? Yay, Scott, where are you? Do we have Scott? Is he back?
I'm in Miami today. How are
what?
you today?
Scott, I want to officially introduce you. So give me a moment to pull up your page and your picture, your nice picture. We did this for you. So let me honor you, okay? Awesome. Okay, Mr. Scott is no stranger to this platform. Before this platform even came to life, he's been like a great support. I'm telling you, I couldn't have done all of this without Scott's support and partnership. And I do want to just recognize him formally for those who are not familiar with his work. Mr. Scott Ford is the CEO of Westrock Coffee and is presidential advisor to President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. In fact, fun fact, he's the single largest private investor in Rwanda. Westrock Group operates Westrock Asset Management, an alternative asset management firm, and Westrock Coffee, a vertical integrated coffee company. He serves as executive officer, chief executive officer, chief investment officer of Westrock Asset Management, and is the chairman and CEO of Westrock Coffee, like I said. Prior to forming Westrock family of companies, Mr. Ford served as a president and chief executive officer of Altel Corporation, a provider of wireless voice and data communication service, where he led the company through several major business transformations, culminating with the sale of the company to Verizon for $29 billion. He began his career with Merrill Lynch Capital Markets and then spent 10 years working for the Stevens family in Arkansas, where he worked closely with its renowned chairman, Jack Stevens. It's an honor to welcome you, and is also a lifetime sponsor. Westrock Coffee is a lifetime sponsor of this platform, and I want to play a key video right now just to introduce you all to Westrock Coffee. Okay, I need to play that again.
I firmly believe that any man's finest hour, the greatest fulfillment of all that he holds dear, is that moment when he has worked his heart out in a good cause and lies exhausted on the field of battle, victorious.
At Westrock Coffee, we celebrate the determination and spirit of the people of Rwanda who help us make the finest coffee in the world.
Scott, such an honor to have you again.
Oh, always my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the format of this it's a conversation between you and I, as always.
Okay.
And then everybody else has the honor of listening in, being a fly on the wall. So it's me and you. It's me and you just talking.
All right.
Okay. So for those who have been a part of Trade with Africa Summit from the very beginning, you're not a stranger to them. Okay. So this train, more people, have just jumped on this train. So they really don't know all the various stories you've shared in the past. But I encourage everybody, if you go to our digital platform and just type Scott Ford or Westrock Coffee, you're going to be able to see all the videos because we have over 40 videos from past engagement. You're going to see Scott tell the story of how Westrock Coffee started in Rwanda. You're going to also see last year he put together this educative supply chain video for us. You're going to see all of that. So please, we don't want to really go back to what's Westrock Coffee. So I encourage people to do that due diligence and do that research. But today, I really just want to assess where Westrock Coffee is as it sits right now, and then the future, and then, how you continue to impact on the continent. How does that sound, Scott?
Okay. It's your show, wherever you want to go.
Awesome. So the last time we engaged, since the last time you've acquired, a new big player. Tell us the story of that. how you're now, I believe, the biggest in the US. Is that?
Yeah.
Gosh.
So we are, yeah, from a little dilapidated mill in Rwanda in 2009. Today, we believe we're the largest coffee service provider to the restaurant, C-store, truck stop, gas station, and retail platform in the country. We got there through building our own business, which was focused on private label in the retail world: Walmart, Sam's, Amazon, CVS, people like that. And then we bought the largest supplier of coffee to restaurants in the country 3 weeks before COVID had them all shut down last year. So we almost lost the business again for the third time. Because this startup stuff is hard, as everybody who is actually done one knows. You put it, your family, you put everything you have in it, and there's no certainty, and it looks like it's going to fail more often than succeed. But fortunately, I'd been through enough chaos or chaotic moments, I guess, as a business leader before, that when COVID hit, we basically figured out what to do pretty quickly. And today we're back up and running. We can do more than 100% of the previous capacity. We don't have as many people back because we re-engineered the business as we brought people back. So it's much more efficient now. But we are, again, today, the largest provider of coffee service to restaurants in the country. And we're looking to grow internationally. We're building our first plant in Malaysia to service Southeast Asia. And we're in the final throes of discussions with a group in the Middle East, North Africa, to start service in that area. So that's really what we've done since last time we spoke.
Congratulations. Now, Scott, you sit in an incredible intersection of impact and commerce. Very few people have been able to pull that off, right? In terms of shared value, making a business and impacting the livelihoods. And based on the stories you've shared before, when you went into Rwanda, you found out that 20% of the people in Rwanda got their livelihood in the coffee business. So even when you went in, you weren't thinking coffee. You did a due diligence, you did research. So as you've also engaged with other businesses around the world, what would you say in terms of this intersection between impact, right? Doing good in the world and still building a business out of it? Because I don't see that approach very often.
Yes. So that's the nexus around which, if you don't get it right, it's not worth doing in the duality of life, right? So I'm a commercial operator. I'm a business person. That's how I'm wired. It's what my background is. It's what I bring to the table. I wouldn't know how to get a grant if you told me you'd give it to me. But I want to see the business that we do impact people's lives for their betterment, for their well-being, for their sustainability. And the way you do business is as important as the fact that you are doing business. And it typically boils down, people tend to get in one camp or the other. It's just business, or I want to make an impact in people's lives. And this tends to become the ugly side of capitalism. And this tends to become the very unsustainable grant, nonprofit. I need help. I need help again this year. I need help again next year. That's not sustainable either. So it takes the capitalistic free market system of a for-profit business to stay in commercial, in the cycle of life. But you've got to be executing against a model where people up and down the supply chain are benefiting from you being profitable. And solving for that was what I wanted to do at the back half of my life, and why I ended up as a for-profit commercial operator that is actually dedicated to making sure people all the way down the supply chain are getting their fair share of the produce that comes out of it.
Right. But I mean, you saying it's fantastic. What's the practical side of this, right? How tough is it to be a business person and make certain decisions that could take, revenue from your shareholders, and you're giving it back to, the women, right? The people who sustain, the farmers,
Yeah,
It's
it shows up in your margin is where it shows up, right? It shows up in the fact that there are years when coffee prices are down like they have been the last 4 or 5 years. There have been years where we decided not to make any profit at all. In fact, ran about $1 million a year loss in Rwanda, just keeping people alive at the low C price. Now, as C prices come back up, we'll start to make money again. But you have to be willing to say to your partners in your business, there are times to make money when everybody's making money. And there are times when we will not. And that's the trade-off that most people don't have the mandate to make. And we've been very selective about whose money we would put to work so that we could make that mandate. I won't take grants because I'm going to do what we need to do to be profitable. We're not even a candidate as a for-profit. We're not candidate for most people's grants. When we try to borrow money in the early years, no one would lend to us because we weren't a not-for-profit and we weren't a profitable for-profit. So we had to do all of the financing ourselves too. We had to put the equity up, and then we had to put all the working capital up because no bank would finance us. And then no agency would finance you because you're not profitable and you're not a nonprofit. So how do you barely run a for-profit business when it's lean, and then you make your money when things are flush? That's the way we've done it. And we've had to be really selective, or maybe people have been very selective about who wanted to do business with us around getting the right shareholder group that would ride that kind of model.
I think, okay, I'm looking now and I remember you on the stage with me 2018, and I was asking, why are you doing this? And he said something like, I'm a fighter, you had to go.
Yeah.
I think that's what it takes. The spirit, the heart with which you speak on behalf of the rubies of the world. You use the story of the rubies. And I encourage people, please go back to our platform, search for Scott Ford, read those stories. They will totally change your life. Because I say this in terms of Africa is not a charity, should not be a charity case in a way, but we have to come at it with our humanity, in terms of our shared humanity. And, the story I talked about in terms of Arkansas and your grandparents, their story is similar to Africa's story in terms of the quest, to build a business, to feed our family, to take care of the people that we love. And that's one of the things I say, people, even in the context of trade with Africa, it's actually trade with Africans. And also listening to the aspirations of Africa. When you sit with Africans and you listen to them, not just going by the images that you see out there. And that's what I believe, Scott, you've shared with us, that you sat with President Paul Kagame, you sat with the people, and you listening to them, and you bringing your hearts, you're using your heart to run your business. Another leader that really reminds me of this is Doug McMillan, Walmart, right? I think the world today needs leaders like you, that is not just about the numbers, but it's about the people and leading with the heart. We've all gone through COVID 2020. I think in my mind, I think that's the future we all cry for now, is humanity and bringing that into business. So thank you, Scott. It's because of your heart that I know that I've kind of tied my apron to yours. I'm like, you're part of this platform anyway. Like every year, I'm like, Scott. And thank you so much for also saying yes. Now, I want to ask a question, really for the people listening and watching, and those that will watch this later. You spent over 10 years, right? Building this global business. What do you wish you knew at the very beginning? And you and I have had personal conversation in terms of year 1 and then year 2 to year 9. Like, if you were speaking to people now that may really at the beginning of this, like, what do you wish you had known back then that you would share with them?
Well, too long a list. I mean, I could probably, all the scars of entrepreneurship. I could make a long list. I would say this. When I first started, we had a way to make money from the very beginning. One of my mentors had told me early on a piece of advice I practiced when I first started business, when I started this company. And then I forgot another piece of advice he gave me. So the first piece of advice he gave me was great businesses cash flow from day one. They positive cash flow from day one. If you're signing up to write checks while you wait, that's not a great business. Now, it may be okay. You may work through it. It may work out. God works in mysterious ways, but you might want to avoid that one and look for something that cash flows from day one. So I did that in Rwanda when we were buying coffee to sell coffee. We basically cash flowed from day one. Not a lot, but it took care of itself. Then I forgot the second piece of advice he gave me, which was never buy a business to fix a business you already own. I had forgotten. I forgot that one. So I started the roasting business to help pull volume through the export business in Rwanda. And that was a very expensive mistake that took me years to work through. And fortunately, we were in a position where we could work through it. But that piece of advice, if I had heeded, would have saved me several years of pain. But here's how it played out. In spite of that, as the roasting business grew, it gave us the opportunity to build a bigger and bigger pipeline of pull through from the ground. And so we started in Rwanda. We export out of 35 countries now. We sell into 55 countries. I think in the next 5 years, we'll be the largest player in the world in this category. And we're going to do it largely because of and you and I've talked about some of this, but I think we're going to end up winning at the end of the day. Yeah, we're going to have a great price. We're going to have a great product. We're going to provide great service. It's a commodity processing business. You've got to be excellent at the commercial level. If you're not, you don't get a seat at the table. You don't get a seat at the table because you're doing the right thing. You get a seat at the table because you're an excellent commercial operator. And then if you're doing the right thing, it might tip the scale your way. If you give them that for free, it might help you. But I've talked to so many people who think because I'm doing the right thing, surely that's going to help me win. No, it's not. You've got to be an excellent, low-cost commercial operator. And if you're given a great value, a great product at a great price, with great service, then the fact that you're actually helping people all the way down the supply chain, they'll say that's why they gave you the business, but that's not it. That was just the final straw. You've got to be hard-edged in running your costs and your operation. So I didn't really understand all of that when I started, but those three things kind of came together. And then with that, as we built the world's, I think, to only fully digitally traceable supply chain today, where you can go to Sam's Club and buy a K-cup of coffee, or go to Walmart and they don't show it to the public, but they see it, the QR reader on the box. And I can show you exactly what the woman's name is whose coffee is in that cup, the date that I bought the coffee from her, the price that I paid her, the quality that she brought in, whether she made money last year, the year before, whether she's been through agronomy training. I mean, that digital supply chain is what's making us unique. And it's why we're winning basically every RFP we go up against, where people care what's happening all the way down the supply chain. There's still a lot of businesses that don't care, and it's just price, and where it comes from, they don't care. And if there are kids involved, they don't care. And they're going to say they do, but they don't. But where they do, Walmart, Sam's Club being great examples, the people that helped really push and pioneer the IT systems that allowed us to build this platform, they do. And, they win out over time. In the end, you have to believe that doing the right thing wins out over time, but you're not going to get there without being commercially excellent first.
Right. And the system you're talking about is the blockchain technology, right?
We'll run it on blockchain. Walmart wants it on blockchain. Sam's Club wants it through the Oracle-based general ledger system, so you can have external auditors. It doesn't much matter to us which way you want it.
Right. Okay. You talked about excellence, right? So I sit at the intersection where so many people reach out. Hey, Toyin, I want to be on Walmart. Oh, this. And because I know what happens behind the scenes, I'm like, Do you really know what it takes? Please,
Mm.
please, please, Scott, share a little bit about what it takes. Okay, I see your face. Please tell them the true story, because sometimes we have to be the bearer of the, the news. Are you really ready?
Yeah. Well, the Walmart views the world, and you know this. Walmart views the world through the lens of their customer. And I don't know another company in the world that wears those glasses better than Walmart does, right? They look at every product, every price, every setup, every piece of merchandising, every return policy. They look at that through the lens of their customer, and they are all about their customer. So I love that about them. As a customer, I know they've got my back. But as a vendor, whoo, I mean, they are going to run me through it, because if it's not perfectly on time, perfectly like we contracted that it would be, they're not interested in it and they won't put up with it. And so, they set an unbelievably high bar for quality, for doing what you said you do. They run a fully automated IT-based system. If you don't have the IT systems to keep up with their IT systems, you will get shaken out. So if you're not already, you've got to be great product. I literally say this it has to be a better product. It has to be at a better price. It has to come with better service. And you have to be tougher in all of the things that go with that than anybody else. And if you do that, then they want to hear your story.
Yes.
Nobody wants to hear your story until you are those three things first: better product, better price, better service. No one's going to listen to it. And this is why people say, well, I work with an NGO, and I go, good luck with that. Right? Because how are you going to instill the annual discipline of being incrementally tougher and tighter and better, and hope that people are going to give you money to fund that? Well, they're, one day. And Toy, and this goes back. We took the path we took because if I had gone through, hey, a friends and family charity, let's go help these people build a coffee industry, and we won't make any money, we'll give it as a grant, right? If I do that for a year, and I do that the second year, and I do that the third year, and then the fourth year, people don't give me any money, my charity well dries up. Then I'm not available. I don't have the money available to go back onto the ground to buy that woman's crop, right? Now, hey, don't forget, she left two guys who gave her half what it was worth to come to me in the first place. When she leaves me because I don't have the money, because I didn't run a for-profit business and show up with my own capital next year, and that year my charity ran out, what price are they going to pay her next year when she goes back to them?
Wow.
Right? I've put her and her children at life's risk by building on a grant basis rather than a for-profit basis. So yes, I'm strange about all this, but I have religion about all this. It's the only system. Or it's like Paul Kagame told me the first dinner he and I ever had, 5 hours of talking about the free market. He said, when the free market system really is tasted by the poorest of the poor, they will never let go of it. They won't settle for government leaders that won't give it to them, because it's the only system that lifts the poorest of the poor out of poverty.
Wow. Okay. One of the things I try to say, I don't think people realize how fierce retail is.
No, nor should they. I mean, people don't realize how fierce the NFL is either, right? I mean, I love to watch NFL game on Sunday. I can't pretend that I'm going to go out there and be competitive, right? I don't have the skill sets. I don't have the training, but it's no different. This is a 7-day-a-week job, and it's not a project or a one-off. It's all the time with all you do.
Exactly. And that was one of the reasons, like, so I know privately I've shared with you some of the opportunities we actually have with Walmart. It's like, I'll be right back. Give me 2 years. And then you also shared it took you, 6, I don't know how many years to actually get that volume and everything in place. But that's why
7 years.
7
years. So the average sales cycle, into a large retailer, whether it's Walmart, Sam's Club, CVS, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Wendy's, Circle K, the average sales cycle is 5 to 7 years. And they won't take a sales call from you until you're ready with product. You have to be ready with product, ready to manufacture. I paid people for 5 years to stand at machines and do nothing so that I could continue to call on them so that one day I could make a sale.
One of the ways though that because I know that space so well, I also see the demand, right, of small products coming out of the continent. That's one of the reasons why there's a strategy around e-commerce that fast tracks that cycle, and that's something that I'm trying to lean more people, like, start where you are, grow little by little, but give yourself time to grow. And I see so much impatience, Scott. Please, please, the patience it takes to build something sustainable. And that's why I wanted you, like, you're the real deal. You've been there, you've done that. This is not just talk. You've lived it out. Like, how patient do people, and you've told me to, you've shared privately with me in terms of towing. Don't leave corporate, right? Yet.
It's hard.
It's hard. You told me, over coffee, like, Toy, I wouldn't leave if, and then I turned around and I left. Now I teach other people. Scott, I now say the same thing you told me to other people. I'm like, don't leave. They told me don't leave yet. Anyway, so what, discipline, patience, the real rigor, because I just want you to share with my community because I care so deeply about their needs. But one of the things I feel last year, 2020, and I can share this with you because we share the same faith, is that I really felt like, Tony, you're bringing people together. You're creating an army, quote and unquote. Is your army ready for the fight? In terms of, are they equipped to win in retail or in international trade, in investment? Do they have the skill set that is required? And my answer really, we have work to do. And that's why someone like you could serve as advisor, mentor, and you do that for me personally. And that's why I said, you know what, instead of just tapping that knowledge for myself, I want my community to really listen to you because you're the real deal. So what skill sets, what do we have to embody for the long goal?
So your point around development, really the skill set development really is a good one. And I find that, and I've said this a lot. People say, what's the most important thing, in building business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I go, like, I don't know, no. And anybody that says they know, they don't know. But I have found that there are a couple of things that keep coming to the top of the list. And I call them, who are your mentors and who are your partners, right? So let's start with who are your partners. And I'm talking about who are the people you do life with, your spouse, your family, your closest group of friends, your closest group of business associates that you share ideas with. Who you do life with is really important because nobody does this alone, right?
Thank you. Please, Scott, say that again. Please say that again.
Well, I think that'd be self-evident, right? And anybody says, "Oh, I'm going to do this," well, good luck. Nobody builds anything on their own. It takes a huge group of people, and so the people that have partnered with me in life, starting with my spouse who has stayed with me through thick and thin, through all this hardship. And then I've had great business associates that I've worked with for 30 years, 35 years, who are still on my personal board, right? On the coffee company board. What should we do? What could we do? I exposed my thinking and my ideas to them. So why? So that they can go, "Oh, Scott, that's brilliant." No, so they can go, "You moron! I can't believe you'd spend any time talking to us about that," right? It's important to have that feedback. So the people you do life with is important. And then the second one, especially for people that are starting a business or that are younger in their career, is who's going to mentor you, right? I don't know anyone who has been extremely successful, who didn't have mentors that are 10 to 20 years ahead of them in life, pouring back into them, right? And staying connected with them and staying transparent with them and staying around them so that they can tell you you're doing a good job? No. So they can tell you where you're getting it wrong.
Mm.
And those two things have been, hugely important. And, I think they're kind of self-evident, but our culture, at least the culture in the West, they like to write books about individuals, and they talk, and individuals like to write books about their careers. And I'm like, really? That's funny. This telling your story is great. Everybody needs to tell their story, but nobody builds a business by themselves. It's if there aren't 10 people that they can name that they talk to 7 days a week, in and out through all the problems, then they didn't have a big enough team probably to ever be successful.
Wow. Ooh, that's huge, because you talked about culture. The culture I do see in most African country that people need to be careful about is actually reverse opposite.
Well, I've seen until everybody agrees, and that kills. You can't grow a business with everybody agreeing. And people, the whole constituency isn't happy yet. I don't care. I'm not here to serve the whole constituency, right? I'm here to grow a business, which means I need the input. I need to be aware. I need to be challenged. But if I'm slowing down and waiting for everybody to be happy, I'll never do anything, and we won't go anywhere.
And along that line, the other thing that I've seen that everybody needs is actually people that believe in them.
Oh, that's so huge. Absolutely, that's huge.
Right.
I've shared the story with my wife when with your group before, when things were at its hardest, and I said, look, we could lose everything. And she looked at me and said, well, we started with $600. If we have to do it again, we'll do it again. Those were more important words than I do. Right? Because that's when it was hard. That was at the bottom. That's when it wasn't clear this was ever going to turn, right? And when she came along and said, I'm your partner through thick and thin, I believe in you, you can do it again. If she had taken the wind out of my sails at that moment in time, I'd have lost the business and everything else probably. And the fact that she believed and moved in that moment rather than moved away in that moment allowed me to gather myself, gather the team, go get the money, go again. And then I've had people professionally, that was real personal. That was real close to the heart. But I've had people professionally who have invested their careers with me and said, I know we don't have any money. I know we can't make our bills at the end of the next quarter. I know that we're flat up against it. I know you're going to have to go, borrow money to keep us going again. But I believe we can do this. I believe we can do it. I believe we can do it. And they stayed. So we started with them. We did $1 million and $1.2 million in revenue our first year. We're going to do 750 million and make 60 million in EBITDA this year. But that was not in a straight line. It was years of flat and probably going to lose it all. And then a hockey stick after 12 years of suffering.
Wow. Incredible. And Scott, in a way, you've been that for me as well, because I can clearly remember the lunch we had before any of this, right? Before any of this, the lunch we had, and then you were like, let's go get coffee. And I suspect you were tasting their coffee if it was good as yours. Anyway, then we went for coffee, and then I laid my plan. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I saw your face. You were looking at me like, if only this lady knows what she's getting herself into. I could read you. I think your face makes more sense to me now than then.
Sorry.
And then it's good. And then you were like, what do you have to pull this off? What are people going to walk away? You challenged me. You did, which made me go back to the drawing board. And not only did you believe whatever you saw in me, I don't know, but thank you for that, because I see everybody needs it. The other thing that privately, now I can say publicly. I never used to say publicly before, but now that is he's released the video, I can say some of the private things, like some of the one-liners he sends me, like, go get them, good job. Like, I'm like, really? you
Yeah,
know,
it
it's
matters.
it matters in terms of, because I don't, there are days when you're like, why am I doing this again, Tony?
Hmm.
Why you could literally just take your skill set, SAP, go back into the market and do what you have to do. And the reason I'm being very transparent and giving people this, really frank discussion that you and I have is, as they go on their own journey, I hope that they have people who believe in them.
Yeah.
I hope that they know that nobody's saying it's easy. In fact, because it's not easy, I've now made it my life's work in a way, or Nazaru's work, to support people with resources and access to solutions. We just had US government share with us so that the community knows that when you do need to call on support, there are people we could connect you with. Yesterday, we had African Union, our strategic partners, even at the continental level, and they've opened their channel to my community, which is not just for me. So that's the reason I'm just sharing this. So I want to publicly thank you, Scott, as always. And I also want to tell you, Scott, put us on your calendar every year. We are not letting you go.
Oh, they don't. Your group is a terrific group, and
Oh.
they don't need to hear me every year. But I enjoyed. I listened to the last part of Mr. Fanjoy's presentation, and prosperafrica.gov and mcc.djmarket. Man, would I have given my eye teeth for that 12 years ago? What great resources
Wow.
people are starting to bring to bear, and as your network starts to get momentum, people are starting to be able to attach to it. And it's like any other network, the attachment rate to a network goes up, at a parabolic rate, right? And as your group continues to grow, its importance is going to continue to grow, and the success of the individual people in your group are going to continue to grow, because they're going to get plugged into more and better and more timely resources, right? So one of the things, like we learned what people, so I got called after a presentation I made, probably on your forum. I was asked to come up and make a presentation to OPIC in U.S. government. So I went up and I made a presentation. Who are you? What do you do? And I tell them the whole story, and they were like, and they knew a little bit about us, and they were saying, what is it that you really need? I said, we do grants. And I go, well, we don't do grants. So we're a for-profit. And they said, so how could we help? And I said, working capital. And they're like, working capital? I said, credit, right? Credit is the lifeblood. Well, we were too small. We were too small to even trip the scale that they would be interested in, which is okay. We only needed 12 million, and they start at like 50 or something like that. But as time has gone by, that agency is one of the many that I saw were represented on the Prosper Africa, U.S. government coordinated mission. Well, that's going to change, right? And when they start to make working capital available to smaller businesses, and not where they, have to take a full loan out for 5 years. They're most of them are set up to do big term loans over, tens of millions of dollars over multiple years. Whereas people need 500,000 for a year, and then pay it back through moving their inventory, and then be able to draw it back down. No bank will do that, right? And so your group, though, is in a great position to go advocate for that. When people say, well, how do we help? Well, you don't need words. You need working capital, right?
Yes.
Because you don't want to give up. Most of your entrepreneurs don't want to give up ownership until they've got at least something going, right? And they're not in a position to borrow millions of dollars, but they could use 150,000 or 500,000 to bring 5 container loads over and sell it, and then recycle it, and have working capital and receivables financed through that. Things like that are going to come out of your group's existence. So even though I told you, and you're right, 5 years ago when you left Walmart, I said, be careful about that. What you've done is get into a place where it's going to make a difference, and it's going to short circuit the cycle where the next group of entrepreneurs won't have to go through 12 years.
Oh, that was the plan, Scott.
Yeah, well, you'll get there. It's getting there.
Yeah, and you talked about financing. In fact, we already tapped into that. And it's Exim Bank. I have a presentation for them where it's federal government guaranteed loan and they have insurance. So what I'm now working on, and that's why I told Mr. Bill Fanjoy is, and Jeremy, who's the point contact, they're actually connected to 17 agencies. So we now have like a window. It's a one window. We can now say, okay, who do we need here and who do we need to work with? And Exim, they have a group that is focused on minority, diverse. So they are willing to work with a smaller group of people.
Right.
And they would back those transactions and working capital. They also have export insurance. So if there's a problem on the other side and that person doesn't pay you, the government will pay you maybe 90, 95%. So you can't really go wrong with that transaction, pretty much.
That's great.
If you have the so all of those, should I say, trade, equipment, resources, like things you can use, we're now pulling it together and we're asking people to plug in. Like you can go by yourself. Eventually, you figure this out 3, 4, 5 years down the line, which
10,
is what
12.
I've done. 10, 12. Eventually, you will do that if you're smart. But then I asked somebody, it took you 5 years to get here. The next person, should they have to spend 5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Well, and you heard Mr. Fanjoy say, he's looking to do small, medium-sized businesses, minority-owned, women-owned. I met the small test, but at that point in time, that would have been hugely helpful. And your group you ought to tap into that. I think they're legitimately, I don't think not-for-profits solve much long-term. I really don't. But that's just me. And you can write that off to my worldview, and that's fine. But credit extension, credit enhancement, grants that are targeted to business startups. I believe the U.S. government is serious. I mean, I have gone up and talked to them 2 or 3 times. I don't fit what they're looking for, but I do believe they are serious about helping. And I think your community should be leaning into him and taking him up on his offer for help. And you should spend more time with him and less with me, frankly, next year.
Come on,
and keep him on the stage and make him answer the questions. They were good questions that were coming.
Good. And we will still bring him back. In fact, we're doing some smaller monthly meetings. So I think January, I walked you through some of my platforms and you were like, toying, all of this stuff. Well, some of it have bubbled to the surface. One of it, which was your advice to me, like pick the top 2 and stick with that. And one of the ones that have bubbled is actually what is allowing us to network. With COVID, right? We couldn't meet in person. So there's actually a digital platform where people now connect with one another, connect with resources as well. And I host monthly smaller community meetings. And then I also teach and coach every single month. It's by subscription. So all of that, which I'll share more on Friday as we wrap up, which is one thing though that is striking me. One thing I saw Walmart do and some other entities do, and I don't know if that's something you might want to do, is really also establishing a not-for-profit side to your work. And that not-for-profit side can actually bring in those grants.
I'm not going to play in the NFL.
Scott,
it's not going to happen.
Well,
I'm probably just not up for it.
If the numbers look right, though.
Sure.
Let me explain one thing, if you don't mind.
No. Please.
Okay, this is public, but anyway, and now I can. I never used to talk about Walmart publicly but now I can. Even in my world of shifting, I not only worked with Walmart, the entity business, but I also engaged with the foundation.
Well, sure. Yeah, I understand.
And the foundation told me something that I wanted to share. We only go in where our business is going.
Right.
So if our business signals to us they're going here, we would support through the foundation. We will bring in programs, training programs, all of those things through the foundation.
Education. I've watched them do it in Arkansas.
So that was something I was like, Yeah. So because I've also explored within my universe the different platforms we have. For example, the Trade with Africa. I've continued year after year to ask myself, should I carve, at what point do I carve it out strictly as not-for-profit education support, while Nazaru keeps on doing what he's done? So it's something I keep, every year I keep,
yeah,
yeah.
I understand, and I think there are circumstances
Yeah.
where it makes a lot of sense to do
Mhm.
something like that, and some people may have a project that really is a not-for-profit project, and
Purely.
it goes in, it has an impact, it does something in a period of time, and it's not looking to be on the ground for 25 years, and in that case, it could be perfectly appropriate. I'm not saying that they don't make sense for anybody. I,
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't really know how to do it, so I'm
And
just going to
Scott,
keep
that's
doing
why
what
I
I do.
love you. I'm telling you, this is just gem. And I'm sure people, yeah, Joy just says, I love to listen to you both. Very, yes, that's what I said. It's just me and Scott. People are just listening. And do drop your questions, because I'm looking at time now. We only have Scott for a moment. So please drop 1-2 questions before we let him go. But Scott,
Ma'am.
from a business standpoint, I always tell people, in business, we want to know, we don't want surprises, right?
Sure.
Because as I tell people Trade with Africa, I also tell them, I'm not saying it's easy. So I just want you to reiterate that again. It's a risk reward. You have to just know what's your risk tolerance and all of that, and then the reward and being ready for it. And also, I think what we're also saying is that for so many people that may have faced challenges in the past, today's landscape, there are more resources that can help you better position.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And, Toyin, and you alluded to Ruby earlier, right? So for those of you who didn't hear all that, I'm not going to take you back through it all, but I will say that Ruby was the name of my grandmother, and my grandmother in the Depression in Arkansas lost her first 2 children to poverty, basically. No running water, electricity, etc. My father was her 3rd born child and the only one that survived. So Ruby is the litmus test I used when I was in Rwanda, and I realized that the coffee trade was paying these women about half what her crop was worth. I psychographically overlaid Ruby onto these women who I'd never met and started a coffee company because I was going to help them avoid what she was unable to avoid. All right. But if you don't think I've had to gut check that multiple times in 10 years, so if you're going to go do something like this and you're actually going to go try to build for your community a better way of living and a better standard of living, know that will get checked. Know that in the years that are going to come, that will not go smoothly and off, just a glancing blow. That'll get checked all the way to your core. Are you sure? Did you mean it? Are you still committed now? How about now? When it's really hard, right? And I've watched it in our story. I've watched it in your story, Toyin. This is reality. There's no better journey to take. There is no, to me, as an entrepreneur, where you're trying to make a difference in people's lives and build a business that feeds the people that work at it and creates wealth for people that trusted their money with you and said, I believe in your vision and your talent and your insight, and I'm going to put money with you. That trust, there is no greater trust. All right. And there's therefore no higher payoff when it works. And so it is worth doing, but it will get checked. And so it's not for the nobody on your calls is timid. There's no, all the timid folks have been washed out, but it's not even for those who think, well, this time it'll go smoothly, right? This time, surely it will go easier. No, it won't, but stay in there. It is worth it.
Oh, Scott, I need to quote. I'm going to quote you. The timid ones have been washed off.
Well, I've met
No,
your
it's
group. I haven't met any timid ones.
yes. Thank you for that vote because I tell people like it took me a while, Scott, to realize that this message wasn't for everybody. When I
No.
started, I was like, trade with Africa. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And people are like, skepticism, all
Hmm.
of that. What do you know, towing, all of that. So and that's why all we need is a small handful of people ready to go all the way. And I quote this Gideon story. You need to wash
Mm.
off. And if it's 300, it's 300. We do this the next 5 years. In 10 years' time, people will have the stories to share. Some new people will come up and say, wow, I didn't realize that's what Toyin was trying to. Well, we've moved
Mm.
on. And I say, this train has left the station. You can either jump in or not. I mean, this year in particular, I've seen the growth of this platform. um, I've seen the public um, support and how do I say I'm lost of words because yesterday the commissioner for trade and for economic development, trade and industry at the African Union pretty much said to him, everything you need, whatever you need to succeed, we would bring it to bear. If you ever need us, just call me and I'll come. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. That's incredible access. And the same thing with Walmart and several other people that I cannot
Right.
say, but
5 years in, 5 to 7 years into your sales cycle, you are registering sales,
mm,
right? 5 to 7 years in, you're getting the ear and the mindset and the heart share of people who make decisions and can bring about a change
mm,
in the area that you have spent your life trying to create change, right?
mm.
It takes that long. It
Oh,
just takes that long.
I didn't know that, Scott, but you did tell me. But thank you. And I keep, yeah, thank you so much. So I hope people appreciate this. Okay, John says when you're trying to change mindsets, expect a challenge. Be prepared to fight. Progress in is only made by those with above average intestinal fortitude. I think he's trying to
Good
process
word.
everything,
I
everything. I think that's the
should have just
message.
said that. It would have saved everybody 45 minutes.
Some people are more gifted in just that's
Most.
it. That's the summary of this all. Joy said, I love listening to both of you, very educative. Um, Abdullah said grants and international financing are the needs for the African small business entrepreneurs. They have no help from the government or local banks. There's something. There's something else I try to. So I teach now. I teach. There's a class I teach called Trade and Investment Facilitation, and I have a page there dedicated to foreign aid versus foreign trade because I've also seen in a way, and I have to be careful to say this, is like foreign aid in a way as also they serve as a crutch. You remove that crutch, you fall down. At some point, Africans have to stand on their 2 feet like the Chinese are doing. We have to figure it out. Again, it's a long process, but it does, the money does something to the mindset where everybody now thinks everything is free, right? The education that will transform you is not free. Everything that is common is not going to transform you. You have to really go for the cream of the next level of mindset that is actually going to help you build a globally relevant brand. Please,
Right. And
Scott.
yes, no, I was going to say there is a time and a place for what I would call aid or grants or charity, right? As I tell people all the time, if my house burns down and I come to you as my neighbor and I say, will you take me in? Right? Out of the goodness of your heart, you take me and my family in. I need to be going about getting a house reestablished. Right. So there is aid that I need. I need food. I need clothing. I need shelter. I lost everything in a fire. I need everything. There is a time when I need everything. Right. And then shortly thereafter, though, you should expect me to see progress moving back out of your house and into my own. And if 20 years from now, I'm still living in your house
Woo!
and my children have grown up in it, they think it's theirs.
Woo!
Have you and I really done each other a service?
Wow.
Right?
Scott.
The free market system allows people to get back out and build their own house and have their own life after they've been caught through the safety net that is needed in different communities at different levels. There are basic things we do in Rwanda in different communities. There are some things that we do in certain communities that other communities, they don't any more need or would value than the man on the moon. But there are some, water, they really need it. And others, they've got all that really figured out and they're down to the, third graduate year of agronomy training. But each community can be in its own place, in its own moment. And there's time and place for all of us. So whether you're an NGO or a government grant agency, all I'm doing is saying, and wouldn't it be great if we spend as much time and energy trying to help those that are engaged in the free market system be able to access capital and facilitate trade as we do on the emergency side. So those that are trying to get their own houses stood up, we should help them as much as we help those who are coming in need of shelter in the storm. That's all.
Wow. Okay, Stanley, I'm looking at time. Stanley Ray, who has been part of this platform from the very beginning, is originally from Arkansas. So he's sending a message to you, but he's now in Malawi. He said, "Dear Scott, first, how about them OGS WPS?" Okay.
Very good.
Okay. Secondly, a fellow Arkansas, former JB Hunt's VP in Malawi now for 3 years, trying to build up local NGOs with business revenue for the sustainability model you and Toyin were discussing. On a larger scale, how does a country like Malawi, whose reputation is simply existing as a aid-dependent poor country with nothing to offer, how do they fight for recognition and a seat at the table for their great coffee, spices, and other fantastic products offering? So Stanley really wanted you to think through this in terms of from Arkansas, former VP at JB Hunt. So JB Hunt, for everybody, is US largest logistics trucking company. Yeah. And he's in Malawi and is wondering, Malawi is so aid dependent, but they have great products. Where do they start from?
Okay, well, Stanley, so you're going to get the real me. Go Hogs. I don't know anything about Malawi politics. I don't know anything about what anybody thinks about Malawi outside of Malawi. That's not my area. Hey, if you've got great coffee and you want to build a business around coffee, email me directly and you and I'll talk about that. That I can help on. Toyin, anything else you want to say on the rest of it? I give it to you.
Scott, the last time you gave your email, I had to edit it out of the video before we took it publicly. But that's okay.
Well, I'll deal with that. Hey, look, somebody's got a great idea. I don't mind going through, the 100 to get to the one. That's sometimes part of what you have to do.
So Stanley, definitely coffee is in the game. You want to get your coffee into the Westrock Coffee chain. Scott is saying yes.
Yeah, right? We'd be glad to help you. We really would. We were in Tanzania for years, and we're still in Rwanda, Ethiopia, and Uganda. And if you've got a great product in Malawi and you're having a hard time finding the right home for it, let me help you.
Yes, fantastic. And Scott, Stanley's the right person because he understands logistics and what it takes anyway. So perfect. Thanks, Stanley. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. There's 2 more questions, but I know you have to go, Scott. Lasting parting words, blessings upon our community.
Well, sure. Look, it turns out to have been my career's great privilege to have gotten to start a business in Rwanda. I went back for the 10th anniversary a few years ago, and I was just, we started in literally it had been abandoned and it was torn down. It was being used as fertilizer storage in a mill. And then we built another mill over the years over there. And we were there honoring the our 10th anniversary. And as I told the workers that were all gathered around, and they took bags of coffee and created a little amphitheater for everybody to sit in. I said, when my life is over, I have had a beautiful, wonderful wife. I have 3 wonderful sons and a growing family. But professionally, if all there is to say about me is he stuck his finger in the dike and he stopped the flow for some people in Rwanda for a time, I would be satisfied with that. And what grew out of that is the largest supplier of coffee to restaurants and retailers in the country today and soon to be in the world. And so your dream about your place in the moment and what you think will be sufficient, don't underrate what God might do with that little thing if he has a purpose beyond just that. But don't be shocked at how much it will extract from you in the process, because that part's real too. It's always a joy to be with y'all. I wish you blessings. I wish you good luck. And if you want to talk coffee trade, I gave you my email. Good luck on the rest of it.
Good. Scott, have you been in touch with Donnie and Dale yet? How are they doing? Dale.
Oh, well, yeah. I haven't talked to Donnie. I was emailing with Dale, because everybody emails with Dale every week, right?
Yes,
so
me too.
I was already emailing with Dale this last week, and he and I are having coffee together next week, actually. I haven't seen Donnie in some time, but I hadn't been to Rwanda in some time since COVID hit either.
Dale, I sent him a copy of that video. He responded back. Donnie once told me, Donnie, by the way, everyone, is the former CEO of Tyson Foods. He once tells me he only checks his email once a week. Like, does he still do that?
I don't doubt it at all. And maybe why he lives the most content life on the planet.
When you do see them, please extend my love. Dale was with us 2019. He actually flew to Chicago. He was honored with Investor of the Year. That. Yeah. Oh, Dale has been.
He's a blessing, isn't he?
He's a blessing. And then Donnie, I keep track of when my work is mentioned. And I think last year he was doing an interview. And in that interview, they referred to his speech on trade with Africa.
Nice.
So I keep track of that. So it's been an honor. Greetings to your team over at Westrock Coffee. Much love. I still have your coffee sachets here.
Good.
I read everybody go check out westrockcoffee.com. Great coffee, great story, great support, great partnership. It's always an honor, and thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Good luck to you all. Thanks so much, Toyin.
Thank you so much. See you. Bye now, love. Bye. Greetings to your family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Everybody, I hope you've really enjoyed that experience. We're wrapping up today. What I'll have to do with Prosper Africa, because it's not going to be smooth to try and bring them back, because I know he did say we could bring them back. But maybe what we'll do, this is June, happy new month, maybe July, August, we might bring them back for our monthly session, which is only for our membership. Maybe that's what we'll do, because I know there's so many questions. What I'll also do is move all the questions to the platform. If you've not visited the platform, is www.nazaru.trade. That's where questions we'll keep responding to them. We have a number of our speakers already there. We can tag them, and definitely they'll keep engaging with you. Tomorrow morning, it gets even better. We're going to have Mr. Komi Tsou joining us to present the AFCFTA, the technical side of it, in terms of what opportunity you can start unveiling and using for yourself. The way this year's summit is set up is you take it in, whatever you've heard today. Hopefully the rest of the day you have to process. It takes a while for these things to sink in. But I'm looking at time, officially I'm closing this out. But if you want to stay to ask a question or two, I'll honor that. But officially, because based on feedback, I don't want to keep people on here. So officially we are closed for the day. But if you want to respond, or you want to raise your hand and you want to come on the screen and just engage, I'll give the next few minutes to you. So raise your hand, but remember, you're staying because you want to stay, not because I'm keeping you to stay. Okay, I just want to be clear on that. So if you have a question, okay, I see there's a hand raised. Let me find that hand. Where's that hand? Attendee Joy, allowed to talk. Come on up. Let's be brief. Let's keep it straight to the point, just to get your reaction on the day. Miss Joy, I think you have access. On mute, please.
Hi. Thank you so much for this engaging discussion today. It was quite, I loved everything that was going on there, especially the last presenter. I really could engage with him, the idea of how non-profit and profit making, because I've been doing this as well for over 15 years, non-profit base with a reason behind, and I'm based in Germany, very important, and so I encouraged to be here. So my question was actually, I don't know if the guest is still there or is gone, whether we can still, he left. So the question, yeah, so probably the question won't come in handy, then it will more the feedback. But yeah, thank you so much. It was such a great platform. And how can we get all those contacts?
Okay, so in terms of contacts, the way this is set up is, I want to respect each person. So if you want other people to have access to you, what I've asked is for you to be on the platform, because people can then search your name and research and connect. Not everybody wants to do that, so I respect that. So that's where the answer would be is, netzaru.trade is where people can connect with one another. So our speakers that want to connect with the community can create their profile, and I see people already doing that. Our attendees that want to connect with people, we've provided that platform to you really help facilitate that interaction. But here's the thing, not everybody, not all our speakers and not all attendees want to make themselves that available, and I respect that. But again, we've created that platform, and those who want to be found are being found and being engaged with. So it's really how this has to play out, because I do want to respect and honor people's privacy as well. Awesome. Okay, who's next? I see comments. I hope that helped. I see